Hey everyone, so today's video is going to be a little different. As you guys know, this past weekend I posted a message that said I was going to take the Avengers weekly recap off this weekend, essentially not giving you guys a video talking about everything going on with the community. Basically, to summarize that message, I was just kind of tired of all the drama that is happening within the community right now, whether it's people in my YouTube comments, coming at me, whether it's people in my Discord arguing with each other day in and day out over this game, whether it's people on my Twitter timeline who are arguing over this game. It just got to the point where I just needed to take a step back from the community and just kind of pull myself away because it is, how do I say this? Like, seeing all that negativity and all that fighting and all that arguing, eventually it does take a toll on me. It does. And, you know, I just needed to sit down away from the community, play some other games, do some other things, read some comics, like just separate myself from the community a little bit in order to give myself that space, because what I was finding is it was just like it was becoming a chore to kind of cover this game at some points. So I had messaged Stardust and I said, "Hey dude, I just need to take this weekend off, I just can't do it." And as much as it was a shock to you guys, the people who do enjoy Stardust and I sitting down and kind of chatting for a few hours, it was also a shock to him. It wasn't something him and I discussed. It was basically like I made the decision out of the blue, and it kind of blindsided him a little bit as well. So for anyone who missed that, for anyone who missed the Avengers Weekly Recap with Stardust and I, my apologies there. That's on me. And I hope to make that up to you guys in the future with another episode where Stardust and I can have some fun. So the reason that I am making this video is to kind of address and talk about the polarization within this community. At the end of it, hopefully this makes some sense and you guys see where I'm coming from, or maybe this falls on deaf ears. Regardless, I mean, the video's there. You guys can assess it for your own selves, and you guys can either call me an idiot or whatever. I mean, regardless. But I guess at the end of the day, like, this community is no stranger to drama. I mean, we all remember how this game kind of got unveiled and the drama that came surrounding that, right? So, um, you know, this game from day one has been surrounded in drama. But recently, it feels like we go through ebbs and flows, right? We go through a period where no drama, and now we're back to a period where seemingly it's drama all over again. And honestly, it's just, to me, I mean, I don't know. Like, to me, we have a community where instead of being able to talk about ideas, suggestions, and things we think could improve the game, a lot of it is we focus on sniping each other, calling each other names, whether it's shill or hater or defender or this and that, right? Like, we choose to engage in these things. And at some point, when does it just become childish and easier to move on at that point, right? Like, when do we take a step back and say, these arguments really get us nowhere, right? Me calling you a shill or you call me a hater, like, when do these conversations just boil down to like nothing gets done? Like, there's nothing productive out of these conversations, right? So ideally, I would like to think that most people engaged with this game have something that they tether themselves to, whether it's like a friends or a family or a life or a job outside of this. Like, I have to think there's something outside of this that people tether themselves to, instead of falling down this weird pit where everyone wakes up and they want to argue about Marvel's Avengers, right? Like, where you wake up on a Monday morning and your first thing is you go to Twitter and you engage in arguments on about Marvel's Avengers. Like, I have to think there's other things that people do with their lives than this. I really have to. And I don't know if it's the internet or how people, like, maybe the way people are feeling right now with the world and everything going on. I have to think there's other things though, because like, I don't know. I don't know, because but I don't care what side you fall on, whether you're a quote unquote defender or you're a quote unquote hater. Like, I don't understand why people sit on the internet all day and just argue with each other. I really don't. Personally speaking, I don't. So to me, I don't get it, and that's the point of this video, is I just don't necessarily understand. But here's the truth. The truth of the matter is the game has issues. It has flaws. Whether you're a hater or a lover or you're a shill or you're this or you're that, like, at the end of the day, the game has issues. Everyone sees it. No one's blind to it, right? The game needs work to bring it up to par in order to make it an experience that people want it to be. We know this, right? No one is blind to the obvious, and that's the point. With that being said, also, this game with all of its issues can still be someone's favorite game, right? Someone on Twitter can be like, "Hey man, I know this game's got issues, but it's still a fun game for me." That's totally cool. That's totally cool. And someone else could be like, "This game has issues. I don't want to touch it until it gets better." That's totally cool as well, man. But at some point, these two sides intermix, and it comes to like a war of words at that point. Which side is better? I don't get it. I don't understand, you know? Um, in terms of my own positions about the game, people have recently come at me for defending the game or shilling for the game. Honestly, for anyone who's seen my content, I recognize the game has issues. I've said it before, whether it's in videos or in streams. Like, I recognize the game has issues. I'm a glass half full kind of guy, naturally. So when I say a game has issues, I always like to say, but this could get better. This could get better. Like, I never look at something and say, like, this is forever going to be shit. It's just not me, right? I mean, Clinton on Friday, he was in my stream chat. He's like, dude, you sit on the fence pretty well. Like, I mean, it was a good joke, man. Honestly, like, shout out to Clinton who said that. Like, because honestly, like, I try not to sit on the fence in terms of like flip flopping between sides, but I just try to take everything as it is and give my assessment, right? Part of what I feel like I like to do is to say if something's good or something's bad, right? There's been lots of skins I've said were good, but people disagreed with me. That's totally cool. I'm not always going to be 100% correct on every issue, right? You know, whether it's the skins and everything to do with that, people can say, "Hey, man, I don't like this skin," but you do, right? Whereas, like, I remember Prometheum, for example, right? Prometheum was like I think the last big one where I had a bunch of people pile on me, where I was like, "I like that skin," and I had people piling on me, for example, and like it's like I understand if someone doesn't like that skin for a multitude of reasons, right? But just because I like the skin shouldn't open me up to attack. Sure, could you guys say like, "Hey, like, that skin's not the greatest," and I'll be like, okay, like, whatever. I mean, whether you think it's good or I think it's good or we both don't think it's good, like, at the end of the day, it's totally cool, right? In the same vein, if someone says something is bad, I don't need defenders, people who feel like they have to go and like tell someone something's good on the flip side of that, right? Like, so everyone has an opinion that is valid in that sense, right? If you think something's bad and you want to see it do better, that's totally cool. If you think something's good and that's good enough for you, that's totally cool too, right? When it comes to cosmetics and stuff like that, I mean, ultimately the beauty is in the eye of the beholder at that point, right? Like, skins will range from people who like them and people who don't like them, depending on which skin. I mean, it is what it is at that point, right? It's art, I guess, right? Like, you know, to put it in terms people may relate to, people love Alex Ross, the artist that does a lot of cool stuff in Marvel. There's probably someone out there who probably doesn't like Alex Ross, and I'm sure people who read comics right now are saying no one doesn't like Alex Ross. And I mean, truthfully, maybe there isn't, but like there could be someone out there, and like that's an opinion that is like okay. I may disagree with it, but that's an okay opinion, dude. Like it's up to you guys to make that choice. But I'm not gonna go fight someone over their opinion, right? Like I'm not gonna go tell someone they're wrong, regardless of what opinion there is. But we're at a point in the community now where it's like voicing your opinion one way or another is opening you up to like dogpiling. You could say you don't like something, and you could say you like something, and that should be okay. Like at the end of the day, we should be a community. And maybe this is just gaming in general nowadays, and I'm so naive that maybe I'm just so fucking far out of it. But at the end of the day, we should be a community that takes the approach of discussing ideas, taking in ideas, and discussing ways that the game can mature and get better over the course of its lifespan, right? Whether these ideas are from one side or another, we should be at a point where we can evaluate the ideas and come to an agreement or disagreement on what ideas could work in theory based on things that we know, whether that is their workflow or their ability to get things done or any sort of things that we know based on what they've shown us this far. Now, this doesn't mean that any idea could be too far or too, monumentally out there, right? Unless that's pushed back by the devs, for example. But all I'm saying is that there should be a point in time where the community can look at something and say, that's a pretty good idea. Here's my reasons why I support this, or here's my reasons why I don't support this, and you can have a civil conversation about that with ultimately both sides probably saying, hey, that's okay. We probably disagree. But hey, maybe the devs could take something like this, maybe mold it into a way that both of us are pretty happy. And, everyone wins at that point, right? I think the point is that I'm trying to make is that at the end of the day, we're all just a bunch of people talking about a video game, right? Like, whether it's my opinion or Joe Schmo's opinion or, John Doe's opinion or Jane Doe's opinion, you know what I mean? Like, whether it's any of us opinions, we should be able to discuss these opinions without taking it so personal, right? We shouldn't have to, wear a heart on our sleeves when we're talking about a video game. This goes for both sides. This goes for the people who absolutely love this game, and this is for the people who antagonize and push and bait and all those, right? There should be a point in time where you could have a good faith conversation about the game and not worry about someone getting hurt over the conversation at hand, right? I should be able to have a conversation, say, I really like this, but here's what I'd like to get better about it. Or I don't really like this, but here's some ideas, right? Without someone jumping in and, calling me a name or, whatever, right? At this point, like, it doesn't do any good, right? You end up with communities that are toxic. You end up with community figures that are toxic. You end up with a community that doesn't really want to see anything get better because everything is just shit, right? I said this the other day, and I said the Reddit is just garbage for anyone involved, right? You could be a shill, a defender, someone new to the game. Like, at some point, the Reddit just gets to a point where it's just like nothing rational can be discussed. Now, granted, that's maybe a little hyperbolic, and, you guys can point to examples where you guys know what I'm saying, right? Overall, the Reddit has gone to the point now where people don't even want to go there because at some point it's just like you're just dogpiled one way or another, right? Like hardcore players, new players, casual players, players who don't like the game, players who do like the game, like a whole range of people just get dogpiled from the other sides. And it's just like, fellas, like, come on, like, relax a little, right? Like, at the end of the day, I would like to think that everyone who's a part of this community still and engages in good faith conversation wants to see the game improve, right? No one wants Marvel's Avengers to be the game that never could, right? They don't want it to be the game that ultimately failed where it could succeed, right? Everyone's still here to a degree, I would think, wants the game to succeed because they want to see this game be a good representation of the characters that they love. Now, granted, this game does have issues depending on who you ask about the representation of the characters thus far. That's fine. But ultimately, people want to see the game improve. And that's fine. That's good. I'm just saying there comes a point in time where the conversations at hand ultimately aren't productive to the people that are having those conversations. And because of that, it gets to a point where the bystanders just kind of look at this and say, what the fuck is going on? Right? I go to my Twitter, I go to my Discord, I go to my YouTube comments. And at some point, fellas, like at some point, when do we just say enough's enough, man? Like, really? Like, it just comes to the point where I think everyone just needs to take a step back and just reassess where they are, right? There's no point of doing personal attacks or going after each other or, sniping Twitters or, stalking Twitters or whatever it is, right? Everyone just needs to realize this is a game, right? It's a game, And I'm not saying you can't be passionate about a game. That's fine. But there becomes a point where passion goes too far, right? And then then you start bleeding into something else. And that goes for both sides. Don't think I'm just talking about one side on this. Because ultimately, it takes two to tango, man. It really does, And I've seen it enough in this community, Like, ultimately, I made this channel to talk about a game that I wanted to enjoy. And sometimes the community actually hinders my enjoyment of the game because I have to go through a lot of the stuff that's being said. Ultimately, that's what I do. So when I see the constant negativity here and the negativity there, and I'm not saying you have to be positive all the time either, but when you're just sniping each other back and forth, like, what does it do, man? What does it do? And ultimately, maybe this is just a sad little rant that no one's going to listen to. And maybe that's the point, Maybe it's the point to get this off my chest so I can come back and be fresh again. But I don't know, man. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you, me, this person, that person, we're a little community that wants to get bigger. We're a little game that wants to get bigger. We want bigger things. We want better things. We want things that envision the Marvel universe. We want things that envision the superheroes that we've read, that we've seen, that we've watched. And people have good ideas. I'm not saying no one has a good idea or this person doesn't have a good idea. There are good ideas out there. So instead of, saying that it, all I'm saying is that let the ideas do the talking. You know, don't wage your holy war back and forth. Don't go to this person or don't go to that person. At the end of the day, if you have good ideas, the ideas will carry themselves. And we've seen that before. We've seen them take ideas from the community. Do you think patrol mode was something they originally planned for the game? You bet your ass it wasn't. That was a good idea. Do you think stuff in the patrol mode is stuff they originally planned for? No, that's why they're going to do patrol mode now versus later, right? There are ideas that are so good that they want to take and they want to make into the game. So let's start funneling good ideas to them. Let's start funneling things that can be added to the game that make this experience better. But let's do it in a way that's not pitting one side against another, you know? Ultimately, I look at the shit that happened this weekend over Hairgate and I'm just like, fellas, I get it, man. I put on my Twitter saying, listen, the hair doesn't deter me. It doesn't. I'm still going to buy the suit. But whether it's the hair or the price, I get it. I get why people are upset about that. And I'm never going to put someone down over that. I'm never going to say you're wrong for this opinion, whether it's the hair or the price. I get it. I understand why people feel that way, right? I'm not saying you can't feel that way. But I saw the bickering and the argument going over hair this weekend. And it's like, how hard is it to say, like, hey man, the hair doesn't bother me. I actually kind of like the hair. But hey, maybe there's a way that both of us could be happy. Or someone on the other side could say, like, hey man, the hair really bothers me. I feel like this is not an actual one-to-one of the end game kind of look. And because of that, this costume, this outfit doesn't really feel like an end game suit to me. And that's okay. Like both those opinions are okay, you know? I'm not saying you can't have either of those opinions, but you don't need to fight over it. You could just say like, hey man, hopefully there's a fix that works for both of us, you know? And then you walk away from the conversation and you guys go your separate ways, you know? And once again, maybe this is super naive and maybe I'm just hoping for too much from the internet in general. But at some point, man, don't we all just have to grow up a little and realize that it's a superhero game that we're fighting over, you know? Um, it's not the end of the world either way, you know. We all want the game to be better, so why not let the ideas do the talking? And that's it. So I just felt like I need to get that off my chest. Maybe people agree with me, maybe people disagree with me, and that's totally cool. This has probably gone a little longer than I wanted it to be quite frank with you guys. Maybe there's a lot of nothing being said here, but I felt like this is something I needed to say, and maybe people will take it hard a little bit, and maybe we can start being better. So, once again, I'm not perfect. I've definitely have said some shit, and I've definitely, said some shit maybe that shouldn't have, and I'm just want everyone to be better, man. And this weekend I took a step back and I reassessed, and maybe it's time that we let the ideas do the talking and not the snipes, But with that being said, guys, I'll see you guys next time here on the channel. Enjoy the rest of your night. It's currently almost 1 a.m. and I'll see you guys next time. Later.